part two of this interview, Will goes through motivation or lack of, and how to address and how to fix that, and anxiety, maybe something that you might be feeling at the moment, and potentially how you could make that go away. My favourite part is when he goes through the motivation equation and shows us how we can address different parts of that.
Okay, Will, so in this second part here, I really want to get into a lot of people being at home by themselves, potentially not that driven for a number of reasons. What would your idea in terms of motivation be? What could they do to help motivate themselves to go ahead and take some action?
There are two parts really to effective study, and that's three parts really, I guess. There's understanding the material, there is remembering it, and then there's the kind of motivation and focus aspect that kind of permeates it all. So what I would say is that my main point on motivation would be that, motivation is kind of a myth. And I'd say like for a three-year-olds kind of want to wait to, feel like doing something to do it. But as adults, the kind of our role is that we show up and do it anyway. And we don't have to wait for, the feeling on the day to catch us. If you always had felt like doing the thing that you have to do, you never get anything done. So I'd say kind of just recognizing that you're not really ever, or you're not always certainly going to feel like studying, and that you just have to go and do it anyway. It is really good. And some effective ways for doing that is I think humans tend to, move towards pleasure, avoid pain. So if you can make the study experience as pleasurable as possible so that you actually kind of enjoy it, like an idea might be playing classical music in the background, or I don't know, using highlighters if you're into that kind of thing, and making it kind of pleasant, or giving yourself a treat afterwards, so rewarding yourself. And then there's also the aspect of, what's the reward going to be, or what's the punishment going to be. So there's also another angle you can take, is to kind of raise the stakes, because it's really easy to do something if if I don't do this, I'm going to die. You would do the thing. Yeah. So there is this this website called Beeminder, where you literally put up money and say you're going to write a certain amount of words every day, or do a certain thing every day, and if you don't do it, you basically lose the money. Yeah, you could do it like a thing with your friends of every time I don't do this amount of study in a day, I will give you €10, just for that kind of accountability. There's kind of popularized by Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, this whole thing of loss aversion, and humans will really hate losing something rather than more than they appreciate gaining something. So if you can kind of hack that, and hack your psychology a little bit, and put this money away and lose it, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, that's kind of hacking the motivation aspect as well. Mm-hmm. From a higher level, I'd say there is a bit of an equation when it comes to motivation. I was trying to kind of get through it yesterday on the Instagram live. I got a bit muddled, but I've looked it up since. It's basically E times M over I times let's get it up here. Sorry.
No worries. Not a problem. I think it's interesting where you're getting it up there to say as well that, a lot of people, I mentioned this with Katie Lenhan the other day, we were saying that a lot of people are up in arms about they're giving out because they feel they've lost their oral, and they're probably the same sort of people, most of them, who are so annoyed that they have to do a practice oral and that sort of stuff. But it's way easier to be angry about the thing that you've lost versus you've just gained this percentage. You don't have to do the oral, you've lost school. But do you like school? Is that where you get all your study done versus the time you've gained now with a bit of responsibility, what you can take from that? But people are way easier to focus on the, oh no, versus the gain of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably can be explained through like evolutionary biology. Really, like we had to be kind of vigilant and on the lookout for threats, and always seeing like the danger when there were, you know, saber-toothed tigers roaming around, and snakes in the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, the modern world is not like that, and you know, people tend to get way too stressed out about things where the risk is not as pronounced at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think a hack for that is just be default positive. So anything that happens, you can kind of look at it and say, okay, how is this, like, how is this a great thing? And like, how can I look at this in a really positive way?
Yeah.
And it takes a bit of practice, but eventually you'll start looking at things and saying, okay, that actually works. That's like, you know, I'm stuck home. I'm stuck at home. Okay, great. Now I've got a chance to get more deep work done. There's a good mantra Jocko Willink uses, the kind of good mantra.
Yeah.
So just anything that happens, just say good. And eventually, you know, you just kind of, you know, lose all the excuses, and it's that's, you know, a good way to look at things. In terms of the motivation equation, I'll get back to that. It's E times V over I times D, and that's
E times V over I times D.
yeah, expectancy times value over impulsivity times delay. So I'll unpack that a bit. Basically, expectancy, you have to expect, or, you know, see yourself actually achieving what you're going towards. You know, it has to be actually possible, because if it's not, you won't show up. Value, it has to be like valuable to you. You have to kind of have a deep why, like, why is this important? Mm-hmm. So if you're not kind of motivated to, you know, do the best you can do in the leaving cert, maybe even, you know, thinking about the course you can do next year, or if you want to like prove someone wrong, like wherever you get your motivation from. Mm-hmm. Impulsivity then, so those two things are on the numerator on the top, so you want to get them as big as possible. And then on the denominator is impulsivity. So impulsivity would be like chasing distractions, and that's everything we were talking about briefly yesterday, with kind of eliminating all push notifications, all like distractions on your laptop, on your phone, putting your phone outside the room on airplane mode. And then delay is what we're kind of talking about just there, is, you know, delayed gratification runs into a problem where the thing you're working towards so hard today is far down the line, and you don't see the results, you know, in the day-to-day grind. So if you can bring some kind of reward for backwards to the current day, and break the goal down into smaller chunks, and then give yourself those little wins every day, and say, okay, I made progress towards this bigger goal today, then that's going to keep you motivated as well. So that's the kind of the framework I like to think about when thinking about motivation.
Yeah. If there's a student there like thinking about it, you maybe some of those parts they have, some of those parts they don't have, they could literally do a little bit of a mind map, or a branch off of those different parts in terms of the values. Or maybe a lot of them don't actually they don't actually believe in themselves, which is something I spoke about the other day. And
yeah, that's probably the most important. To, like, in order to do great things, you have to believe you can do great things. It's pretty much it's said a lot, and it's probably the basis of like most self-help books, but it's definitely a prerequisite for achieving anything. If you know, if you believe you can, and if he believes he can and you believes he can't, are both usually right. So
yeah, what made you kind of feel like, you know, why do you think that you believe that you could do a very good leaving cert versus maybe someone else who believes that they can't? What do you reckon those inputs are?
I think it sounds kind of trite, and you know, people might think it's silly, but definitely like repeating it to yourself. So your repetition kind of creates conviction, and if you can kind of constantly repeat, you know, I am this, I'm a great student, whatever, I will get, or I have gotten these results, and repeat that to yourself every day. And there are endless kind of mantra videos on YouTube. it kind of, you actually do start to believe it. You don't think it will work, but it actually does, and it kind of gets cemented in your mind. And maybe if I was, something more practical, I think if you are putting the work in every day, like you are yourself witnessing that work every day. So when you're putting the work in, that kind of eliminates doubt. Action eliminates doubt. And when you keep promises to yourself, that builds self-confidence. Self-confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something that you build through keeping commitments to yourself. So that's how I would go about it.
Fantastic. What do you reckon? And I know we mentioned this slightly. We know yesterday we mentioned Stephen Pressfield, so it might be nice to mention that again, just because that's quite valuable. What do you reckon is the idea of? So you've got this motivation. What are some hacks to get people to actually sit down and do the work? Just sit down and get there. Like there's people who all day, every day go, I really want to do well in the Leaving Cert. Do you reckon that's a gap in that? Or do you reckon there's some sort of hack that can just get them to sit down at the desk and get something done?
Yeah, like we were talking about it yesterday, where they've done brain scans on people, and they found out that all the pain of an activity is in the anticipation of it. So the 5 minutes before you go down to work and you're anticipating doing some difficult work, and that's where all the pain is. And once people start doing the activity, they actually enjoy it. There's the Seneca quote: "We suffer more in thoughts than in reality." So I think those first, just actually getting to the desk and opening the book and getting started is definitely the most important thing, and then you'll probably get in a flow. And in terms of strategies for that, I think maybe like doing a Pomodoro just to start. It's just a short thing, 25 minutes, and in something short like that, you can always see the end of the tunnel. You're like, okay, it's only 25 minutes, it's not too bad. I'll get through this. And then once you have gotten through that, you'll maybe start to do a lot more than that. But yeah, the first few minutes are definitely the hardest. But they've done kind of studies on this, and they found like even like the top academic performers, they all feel that kind of dread before working, and they all feel that urge to procrastinate. But they just kind of, like, everyone feels it. Everyone, like even experienced riders, feel that kind of writer's block every time they sit down. But the difference between the pros and the others is that they just show up anyway.
Yeah, unbelievable. But I was just gonna go. I got a couple. Would you believe I got a couple of messages today, and like a few. I don't mean one. Saying that they missed that the interview with you yesterday. Is there anywhere they could get it? So it's fantastic that we get to do this again.
Is it on your? Does it stay up on Instagram? No.
So what happened was I think it was because when I called you, I couldn't save it. It's meant to stay up on Instagram, but I think once it clicked into it once, it goes down. But I couldn't actually save it on my phone. Usually I can save it.
Oh, sorry.
So that's why it's good to have it this way. A couple more questions on motivation, and then I'm going to ask you basically the questions people ask, maybe for a third part. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So basically, we already spoke about this a little bit, but like how would you structure your day? How would you maintain that structure, and how would you know what to prioritize when structuring your day?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there basically you have the most control over your AM bookend and your PM bookend. So like the start and the end of your day, basically. And that's why I think morning routine and evening routine are so important. Because in the middle of the day, anything can happen, and you don't know, like you might get distracted. But those are kind of sacred times, so you should do everything you can to kind of have them nailed down. So certainly, I know I always say it, but a morning routine is definitely essential, and try to operationalize like all the virtuous habits you can inside that morning, like maybe first 2 hours, because it's like the time with the least distractions. So that should be when, I know, you're doing your meditation. If you're doing that, you're journaling, maybe planning out your day, and maybe getting your workout in. You know, I don't need to tell you this, but in terms of like just for purely from a studying perspective, exercise is kind of akin to taking Prozac and Ritalin in terms of like the neurological effect. So it really, really is brilliant for you know, doing it at the start of the day before you study. And yeah, there are kind of studies detailing this. Then I think before you turn on your phone, even, or before you take any inputs in, I think that's when you should do your like most important task of the day. Maybe like a 90-minute deep work block, like before you've had any inputs from the outside world, on your hardest or most important thing. And yeah, it's like create, don't consume. So, you know, don't be like taking everything in, like do your most important work at that time. And then you can go off and check your phone or whatever, but like plan it the night before. I'm going to do this for 90 minutes in the morning, first thing in the morning, maybe after I've exercised a little bit, and stick to that. And then you can go off and check your phone. So like really nail down that morning. Then
even doing that, Will, you're training yourself into good phone habits too, because your reward will be the phone at the end that you want to have. So it gives you a short-term reward if you get those two things done, which will also snowball and have a domino effect on the rest of the day. That I would feel anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I was saying yesterday, like when you have a morning like that, it's hard not to kind of have a brilliant day for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, nail your morning and your day is pretty much set. And then in terms of the rest of the day, obviously you need breaks. But I kind of think what might be the case with a lot of people is maybe they're like up in their room, I don't know where they study, but especially with quarantine, it just feels like one long kind of drudgery, and they might be there with their phone and not really getting that deep work done. Mm-hmm. So I'd say like go in cycles. So probably 90 minutes is the threshold for how long you might be able to go for one study session. I'd even say shorten it up a bit, maybe an hour, and then be taking smaller breaks. But in your breaks, like you can go on your phone, but you know, don't maybe it might be better not to like take when you're taking time off, really take that time off, like totally switch off. You go intense and then you break, go intense and then you break, like a lion or something. And do that however many times you want to do that throughout the day, and then have a clear like cut off time. Mm-hmm. Where you do no more work after that point, and then you don't feel guilty spending some good quality time with your family in the evening after you've gotten your work done.
I would find with that I think I said this to you yesterday, but my friends finding it hard to separate work from home because they're working from home and they have their laptop and stuff. But I would find it actually is beneficial in the long run, the way we speak about it. If you decide, let's just say you finish work at 5, right? You finish at 5 and you say to yourself, oh, I could have gotten some more stuff done. Yeah, fair enough. You could have got some more stuff done. That's fair enough. But you actually learn about how to not make that mistake again the next day. You will learn from that mistake the same way testing yourself and correcting yourself. You learn from that mistake and you show up a little bit better.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, you can maybe keep a little log, like what went great today for a bit of gratitude, and then maybe what could I learn, what could I improve. Like it's a constant iteration process of, okay, I can eliminate this distraction here. Oh, I should remove this from my environment because it's like leading me astray. And just constantly like iterating on like what's best for you, and it's like a constant experiment. When something goes wrong, don't get furious, get curious, and find out why, and then eliminate that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Don't get furious, get curious. Do you think studying's a bit like fitness? You have to build it up. Like, could someone who's not really done much sit down and do 8 hours, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think like uninterrupted focus is probably a muscle that needs to be flexed. And then you'll be able to focus for longer periods of time as time goes on. So yeah, I do think you probably need to build up your ability to do that.
One last question before we break into part 3. Motivation, for me, from talking to students, goes hand in hand with people saying they have a lack of motivation, but it also goes hand in hand with anxiety, or not feeling like, there's this hidden, everyone's had it, there's a hidden weight there that's
Yeah.
mental, or on your chest, or you don't really know what it's from. What would your ideas be behind that?
The whole anxiety piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, like mental health is incredibly important. It's far more important than any exam I'll ever do. So it's really important to take care of that. Like if you are feeling anxious, which I actually did multiple times last year, nothing serious, but I actually did come up with a few things. Obviously meditation was a constant, and I found that really good. If I was really, really anxious, say like before leading up to a big exam, I'd like just dropping all the books and going for a walk, or even a swim in the cold water, is I thought was really good, just to kind of clear the head. Talking to a family member about it, no matter like how stupid you might sound, just saying everything that's on your mind. Another thing is journaling, like literally just stream of consciousness, write down everything you're thinking, like get it on a page. So it's kind of trapped there, and it's out of your head, and you can just kind of dump it there, and then you can look at it and see like, okay, is this actually something worth worrying about? And then as well, during the year last year, I would kind of keep a jar of like, I got this from Tim Ferriss actually. It was called like the jar of awesome, and like you might like write. Oh, really?
Yeah, there's my jar there. But sorry, go on.
You write down like great things that happened during the day, or things you might have done that you're proud of, and stick it in the jar, and maybe like review it when you're kind of feeling down.
Yeah,
I found that to be even the process of writing it down is like take some weight off the shoulders. So that's just a quick few bits there. Anything more serious, I'm not a counselor, so see a doctor. But yeah,
definitely talk to somebody about it. But there's like everyone like any sort of ill health or any sort of tiredness, there is certain small things you can do to make a dramatic effect. But it's wrong to go to a professional about that 100%.
Yeah, and if it's like the leaving cert weighing down on you, like leading up to it, I thought like a really powerful thing is just kind of like considering how little it matters in the greater scheme of things. It can be like just powerful to just remember, like, we're all going to die someday, and when I look back, it's probably not going to matter that much in the grand scheme of my life. And as well as that, like, I know we're all kind of monkeys on a flying rock in the middle of the universe. So yeah, nothing here really matters in one sense. That I feel is kind of comforting, and can be.
Yeah, 100%. On that note, I have a similar idea that I think sometimes about work, and I think about school, and I think about if you've got a problem, you realize that there's there's a billion people in India that don't give a shit about or don't care about the leaving cert. And I also think that when I speak to students about the leaving cert, that if you just decide you want to be something, you can be something. And maybe the leaving cert's your avenue to it, maybe it's not. But if you decide, you can make that happen 100%.
Yeah. You know, there's so many avenues to doing whatever you want to do now that whatever college degree you do is going to be, you know, it's a good start, but it's definitely not, you know, the final destination.
100%. All right, Will, is it okay if we pause part 2 here?